One question that came in over the internet too, it was about dosage of medicines. And of course none of us are physicians and we can't address some of the dosage of medicines. But you got to be in constant communication with your physician in order to get what's appropriate, because it is hit or miss.
The thing I'd like to add to that is don't be discouraged if the first medication that you're on is not working, because I believe that antidepressant medication is still an art form and everything is a little bit different. So what one medication might work for one person, another medication might work for another. So you have to be working in concert with whoever is your prescriber in order to say, I don't like the side effects from this. Is there another one that, or this doesn't seem to be working. Is there something else?
Well, one of the first questions that came in is, which comes first, depression or the medical condition?
I don't know, or I'm not aware, I should say, of any other illness where depression has been one of the presenting symptoms. Are you?
Not I.
Are you?
No.
Okay, so I hope this helps. I would tend to believe with myasthenia gravis that they're independent symptoms. Maybe someone had a depression from a lack of physical activity, but it was the physical activity and the limitations that and the fatigue of the disease, of an undiagnosed disease that felt like depression.
The next question is, how can one tell the difference between mental illness and healthy ways of adapting?
Go see a therapist. There are, really, it sounds funny, but it's not a joke. There are healthy ways of adapting, and we can tell pretty easily what a mental illness is if you come see one of us. There are definite symptoms. We can look at the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 4th edition. They're distinct.
There's a period of adjustment to a cancer diagnosis, and the adjustment period is about 2 weeks to 3 weeks after a diagnosis has been made, and it usually is despair or disbelief, after which you start to adjust to it, and then it becomes whether or not there's a mental illness or healthy ways of adapting. So I think you need to give yourself a little bit of time before you run to the therapist to see, whether or not you're adapting. Mm-hmm. The third question, are there recommendations for stress relief?
I've got some.
Good.
One is yoga. The other is deep breathing exercises, which you can learn from a book or the internet or a therapist or a friend. If you're able to exercise, exercise has been proven to reduce the effects of stress. Walking, riding a bike, it depends on what you can do, but certainly physical exercise has been known to dispel stress, anxiety, and depression. So those are my 3 choices.
How illness can affect a marriage, and then how you can get it back on track when you're sick and when you're healthy. Yeah,
well, I mean, I certainly went through some odd things, because after I was at my sickest, after I had pulmonary embolisms because I had a port taken out because of the plasmapheresis, we're cascading events here, and I had suffered anaphylactic shock too from plasma being given to me. I almost went under then. When I was at the worst point, family wasn't pulled in. My wife at the time wasn't pulled in. It probably would have been helpful. I mean, I had a tendency to go off in a corner and take care of myself. It would have been useful. Because 6 months after the pulmonary embolism, then she was diagnosed with a brain tumor caused by lung cancer. And so by that time I was beginning to recover some of my cognitive abilities, because they probably had some small strokes along with the PEs. And so there was kind of a role reversal. Even though I wasn't in the best of shape, I became the caretaker, and she became someone cared for. And it would have been more helpful to have had some family involvement early on during my illness. It would have helped later on. It's a tough call. I think my kids never quite understood the illness. They understood that I was sick, but they wouldn't hesitate about asking me for help, and I'd probably take on more things than what I should have just so I'd look like, you know, the father that they knew.
And I know that it comes and it goes, the illness. So at one point you might need your husband more, and at another point you might need him less, and the roles may go up and down and up and down.
And the other thing, there was another comment about children helping and how much children, you know, children know what's going on. They just do. Even if they're not told, they hear things. And so instead of having an elephant in the room, it's really often best to say, I have this illness. Hopefully it's not fatal. I'm going to be sick. I may, in cancer, lose my hair, or I may be hospitalized at times for plasmapheresis. And do you have any questions? And a lot of times they may not, or they may say, are you going to die? And you answer as truthfully as possible. And then it's helpful to say, if you have any questions in the future, I want you to know you can always ask me. Because otherwise, kids come here 2 and 2 and they come up with 5 or 6 or 7. And then they don't ask their parents, and you don't know what's going through their heads.
Yeah, and that includes adult children too. So I mean, it's not just living with you, it's adult children that applies to. What I wanted to put together a program for today was to point out that oftentimes there's a medical necessity for intervention, both in terms of drugs and therapy, and can really be a good adjunct to the standard treatments, which are guesswork for myasthenia gravis. We don't need to lose our minds as well as control of our bodies. And I think it's real important to be open with that and to make sure that it's treated.